Hi there friends, and welcome to my basic guide for the Immortal Mode of Amazing Cultivation Simulator. I'm Icon, and this video will give you a brief summary of the challenges that will await you when you go for that game mode, and I will do my best to allocate a bunch of helpful tips, strategies and ideas how to tackle that. You won't be finding any deeper strategies for the Immortal Mode in general. This is more like a video if you are wondering if you are already fit for that mode, or if you have some trouble getting past that first barrier. And believe me, it's real fun, and just let's get started with that. So we turn on the Immortal Mode, and that changes the gaming menu here tremendously. First thing I need to mention is these sliders here. You can't touch them anymore. So what the Immortal Mode does immediately is it basically makes the game double as hard per se. So you will have much harder tribulations, you will have much harder enemies, the survival difficulty and the mood penalties are higher, so that means it will matter way more that you equip your people properly. It will matter way more that you have a efficient setup of fighters. So you will have to be able to create solid golden core cultivators without too much trouble in the basic game mode before you will be able to tackle this field alone. Because the combat difficulty is hard enough, and the base mood also means that you should have some knowledge about the setup of a sect, what influences the moods of people, what's good against rain and what's good against weather, and all these things. So let's get over to the game pace. We also suffer here from longer cultivation speeds, longer adventure speeds, inspiration costs are increased, and efficiency of work is lower. That means you will take longer to develop your cultivators, your adventures will take way longer, and learning skills is costlier. So that means you won't be able to just spam everything and be successful with that. This also means that you should be able to optimize your adventuring speeds in some way. There are talismans in game and other nifty things you can do for that. And also the cultivation speed penalties mean that you need to be able to build solid cultivation rooms to tackle that. And down here comes event frequency. Well, there's not really much to say about that thing here, apart from you will suffer way more from randomness during this mode. So events will happen way more often and will have way more impact. I've had it, you can expect things like multiple attacks at once, two parties of attackers at least. Things like these happen in Immortal Mode way more often than in regular game. So here you can also configure the details of events further if you want to check out how the chances are. In Immortal Mode you are not able to change these. I was just thinking I could, but no. So these are fixed here. This means also, when we look at that, everything here is cranked in a way that it's worse for us. That's worth mentioning. So not even the events are on your side anymore in the Immortal Mode. It doesn't disable good events at all, completely, but it makes it way less likely that events are only beneficial for you. And as soon as this might be not challenging enough for you anymore, you can also turn in the extra immortal challenges. I won't be talking in detail about these. All I want to say is you can unlock extra achievements, and they make the game just way harder. You can just increase the power of bosses, the power of enemy sects. You can basically crank up the difficulty of the game even more. Like, what do we have here? So you can make the weather more devastating. You can make a lot of evil things happen here, and yeah, that's Immortal Mode in a nutshell. Things I strongly recommend here to do: crank up the size of your map to large. A medium map makes everything only harder. It limits your building space and it also lowers the amount of resources on your map. Also, when you look for the environment, you might be also considering using one of the extra biomes here and possibly check out some of those legacies here. I won't be talking about these too much because I personally think they are strong things of preference, and I can't really give a good tip there because, you know, I love the canyon map, for example, but other people would hate it for its crampedness, so choose your own preference here. Okay, let's get right into the next screen. There's not too much difference between a regular start and immortal start in the next stage here. So selecting your sect leader and your followers is not that different from before, as it was before, but of course you want to min-max a tad bit more than you are used to. So when going for the perks, make sure that your first cultivator is somebody who has a really high match on the law of your particular choice. This can be made a lot easier when you install the Show Law Stats mod. This is what I use here to get this readout. You won't have that on your regular game. I strongly recommend you to use this mod because it makes your life, when you're starting out the game, so much easier, unless you're using a reincarnated, but that's something else. So, I don't want to talk about the laws here any further. That's enough for. I want to talk about the perks here. The perks are really interesting and you can change your start a lot with those. So I want to point out a few here especially, and that's, for one thing, the Student of Elixirs. The Student of Elixirs is one of my favorite extra perks for Immortal Mode for people who are new to it, because it gives you a huge stash of medicinal resources when you begin the game. I will explain that in a minute if you're wondering why that's so cool. The other opportunity you could go for is the Student of Artifacts, and that would be extra rare materials. These are basically resources which make your first cultivation rooms a lot easier to acquire, but I personally like the Student of Elixirs a lot more. Apart from that, well, of course, every single resource you start with is really useful. So be that either disciples or items, but this one I want to showcase here especially because in my personal opinion, it helped me the most. I also could recommend stuff like Ironclad, which increases your chi barrier power, which can be quite useful if you want to be a little bit more resilient in case you are afraid of early game combat. This is also very useful because you can kill beasts way easier with that, or you go for whatever you please with your last remaining point. That's up to you. We will take Ironclad for this example. I won't be rolling these guys out too detailed here, but this is a really good outer disciple to begin with. If you want to min-max things really hard, you roll out people that have a high fit to other laws already, or you roll them in a way that they give you really good labor and other skills. When you choose your sect leader, always keep an eye out for the Chi Sense. So this one would be a pretty bad cultivator to begin with. Chi Sense is a really useful stat and the game doesn't emphasize it enough. This is a lot about how powerful your character can be, because Chi Sense affects your max Chi amount, and max Chi amount directly influences the quality of the golden core, and that directly influences how powerful your people can actually be. So really, check out this stat. It's very, very important to create powerful cultivators. Sometimes you won't be able to create a powerful cultivator because only this stat is too low. So let's start it and let's get over into the next screen. When you start out your new sect, of course, you should be already knowing what you're doing here. Don't enter Immortal Mode if you don't know how to set up a base properly. Seriously, you will be dying. Unless you enjoy dying, then keep going. Then I also can say I like your attitude. So These items down here are because of our extra background decisions. So you get 10 units of red ginseng and 10 units of Ganoderma to begin with. Also you get purity leaf and spirit leaf. You can use these two resources for the creation of medicine, or you can use it to increase the mental state of inner disciples. That's when they grow too moody. And the spirit leaf can... no, that's only an ingredient. So with these things you can create medicines on your own, pretty useful on its own. And these two are basically ingredients to make your first golden core cultivator pretty powerful, because 10 units of each can be consumed to increase your max chi quite substantially. And it's a quite big pain to acquire these manually, because you need to explore the world quite thoroughly before you can just acquire these. There's, of course, if you don't want to go for this path, there are ways to go around this. We're going to the world screen now for the next section of tips. You can, of course, buy Red Lotus, Red Ginseng, and Ganoderma from other sects, and it's not even that costly. It will only cost you 100 spirit stones per ingredient. It's only a little bit of a pain to look for them, but I really like to showcase that for people who are not that deep in the system yet and want to check out the Immortal Mode, because this way you can build up a first golden core guy pretty decently. So next up, I want to talk a little bit about where you should go first, because adventures take a lot longer, and therefore a few tips and tricks to this thing here. So Heaven's Step Peak is one place you might want to visit as quick as possible as soon as your sect is established. You will find a cultivator called Hei Shudao there. Bring a piece of talisman paper, gift it to that person, and you will receive a law which gives you tremendously powerful access to tremendously powerful talismans, which also speed up your adventures. It's really, really powerful and helps your progress insanely. And it always happens. This is a scripted event that this person is residing there, and I really enjoy the game a lot more since I know that. Also, you will find at Mount Shu a location which will yield earth flux. If you adventure often enough, you can grind it there. You will find a location which yields red ginseng at Central Plain, and you will find a location that yields Ganoderma at Riverbank Plains. These are 3 locations you might want to explore thoroughly when you build up your sect, because these are basically the fuel for strong golden core cultivators, and they are the easiest to acquire. Last but not least, I want to mention Exultant Isle. When you explore that place, you can also find a location where you can acquire Wicked Flux. This is another max chi expander which is really powerful, but be aware of one thing. It lowers the max mental state of the cultivator. That's the little globe that indicates how happy the person is. So when you eat 1 Wicked Flux, their max cap is no longer 100, but 90 instead. And you can repeat that several times. You will always increase your max chi with that procedure, but keep in mind your guy will be not ever happy again, but you can learn that with other manuals. Okay, so last but not least, I want to mention grow more food than you're used to. Use your maximum cap of disciples. Well, you can't see that here right now, but when you have a higher reputation, first you can have 12 disciples, then 24, then 36, because everything takes longer in this game mode. Utilize the manpower of more disciples, but that also means you will need more food, because that's the survival difficulty per se, and if you have more people, you will need more food. So big farms. Do everything just double as big as before, and then check out what will kill you ultimately. I hope that helped you out in some way with this wonderful game, and drop me a comment down below if you have still questions, or if you think that there's some basic tip that I forgot to mention. I always love to allocate more knowledge below there, because this game is that vast and deep. I have forgotten something basic for sure. Also, leave a thumbs up or a subscription to the channel if you found that video was helpful, or whatever positive thing you are thinking right now. I would be deeply appreciating your support. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.